that Noah talked about, using your charity to work with, let's say, a for-profit entity to engage in some sort of a partnership where you're incentivizing something unique to what you're doing. So these are types of things that you can think about in terms of innovating. Also, I think that it's very interesting that Jason talked about a little bit about how your programs are set up, and that innovation in terms of how you're achieving the ends that you're doing become very attractive to funders, because everybody knows at the end of the day that a lot of people are working on some really serious issues, but who's got the most interesting way to achieve that end? And those are the ones that are ultimately going to be attracting the funding dollars that everybody's looking for. So if you can find a way to create the energy and excitement around that, then that's something that will ultimately help you in terms of doing what you're doing. There's one last thing I want to talk about a little bit, but I've got several questions here that I'm not going to be able to get to, but I guess just more on a personal level, I'm interested in each of you from a personal standpoint in terms of philanthropy. Who is really the person that inspires you most in terms of philanthropy, and why? I guess start with Noah.
Great. I actually, there's a bunch of answers. I'll just start with the first one that entered my head. When I was very young, I was still saying yes. We're all asked to have meetings with people and sit on boards and all that sort of thing. And there was a fellow named Rich Snyder. He owned the In-N-Out Burger. And he was quite a guy. Child abuse was what he was passionate about fighting. And he asked me to go look at this home for abused children because he wanted, well, in retrospect, he wanted my opinion, but I don't think he needed it. I think he just wanted me to get involved, and it worked. I went and I was suckered in, and for 12 years I've been chairman of the board of this home for abused children, and it was pretty amazing because I saw the work that was being done. But Rich did a lot of work, and he ended up dying in a plane crash about 12, 13 years ago. But it was pretty amazing because he was somebody who lived his life in a very philanthropic way. And I think I can think of a few examples like that, and what they all have in common is that it's genuine, it comes from their heart, it's passionate, it's not contrived at all. And I could go on and give you a bunch of examples of people like Rich Snyder, but I think that all of us have something to learn from that, because if it doesn't really come from your heart, if you're not passionate about it, you can't be good at it, and you ought to focus on what you're truly passionate about.
Jason?
I think it's a really hard question. There's been a lot of people that have been an influence on me. When I was in graduate school, I had planned. I'd done a placement on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. for the House Commerce Committee, and I was planning to moved back to Washington, D.C. from Chicago. And what happened to me is I took an externship with the city of Chicago. And I went to work for a small little department inside of the Department of Planning and Development. We were giving away federal Title 20 pass-through money. We were creating a grant-making system, basically. And we were giving away federal money to nonprofits in federally designated empowerment zones. These are very poor neighborhoods, and we're funding any number of different programs there. And I actually ended up meeting a woman named Toni Preckwinkle, who was an alderman of the 4th Ward. And I had ambitions, I still have ambitions, but I was very much entrenched in the whole Chicago political machine. And eventually I went to work for the mayor, I worked on a lot of campaigns, and that was a great experience. But the person I remember most from those 7 years was Toni Preckwinkle. And I think it's because we would go into neighborhoods in the Chicago Housing Authority, throughout her ward, at the University of Chicago, where I was a graduate, and we would have forums, and we would talk about the slate of services that were going to be offered in these neighborhoods. And Toni would always show up really early, and she was always the last one to leave, and she would always be the person that would push in the chairs at the end of the meeting, right? She would stick around till the very end. And luckily, Toni actually just won the Democratic primary for the Cook County president's seat just recently. And for me, I think she was an influence because what she was very good at was sitting in a room and remembering everyone's name in the room, and also kind of understanding what the stakes were and retelling their stories back to them. So I think what Tony's, she would have been she is a fantastic fundraiser, but I think what was so influential for me is here was a person that was in a position of prestige and authority who had to worry about money, but more had to worry about kind of re-election and the agenda in the room. But she would take the time to listen very carefully and to understand what the stakes were as we kind of went around the table like we did this morning. And to kind of repeat that back and to catalog that. And that's kind of how she ran her office. And I think it's a great lesson, no matter what you want to do with your life, to sit down and start and to listen to what people's stories are, understand what their triggers are and what their stakes are, and to kind of be ready to catalog that and repeat it.
I wanted to go last because I didn't actually have a name in mind. I didn't grow up around philanthropists. I didn't grow up in the nonprofit world, or really, I understood the concept of giving back because of just the way I was raised, but there isn't any specific person. I'm driven in the area in the business of nonprofit because of all the things that I see that don't work. If I see something that doesn't work in general, I want to break it and then fix it. And so when I look at the nonprofit business model, there's so many things, and I'm going to go ahead and make this sort of soft pitch that if you haven't read the book Uncharitable by Dan Pilata, you should absolutely read it. It outlines a lot of the dysfunctions in the nonprofit business model, all the things that we as a society put on nonprofits that actually prevents them from doing the best work that they can do, i.e. difficult for us to compete with the for-profit world to hire the most talented people out there because we can't afford to hire them because it's frowned upon to really put any more than 15% of your budget into your overhead to pay for good people. Little things like that. Read this book. But I got into nonprofit accidentally, and I saw the opportunity with this organization, but what I've come to learn is everything boils down to people, no matter what your mission, your vision, who you serve, be it children, veterans, women, minorities, whatever it may be, space exploration, everything boils down to people and the people who are going to be moved by what you're doing because it's personal or important to them. I over the past 3 months, I've raised almost 50% of my budget in less than 3 months, and I've never made the ask. I've never walked into a meeting and said, with the ready for, I need $150,000 or I need whatever it may be. I do my homework, I check out the people I'm gonna be sitting with to see what impacts them, what I know is their mission or vision because they can write the check, and then I know what I can offer. I actually sat down with, I'm not gonna say her name, but she's definitely one of the most wealthy women in the world. And she and I met for tea for about an hour, and within the first 2 minutes she said, are you here to ask me for money? And I said, no, because I wasn't. I'd already seen her mission and vision with her nonprofit, her foundation, and I knew it had nothing to do with my organization. But I didn't walk in there expecting to get money out of her because I didn't think I was going to. But the value of being able to sit with her for an hour at her home for tea was extraordinarily valuable, and I was very lucky to do so. At the end of the meeting, she gave me her, the head of her foundation, the executive director's email and phone number. She said, you should call her. Because I don't know what we do. We don't really do anything with women in business, but I'm compelled, and you should talk to her, and I'm going to tell her to meet with you. So that meeting's been set up, but it's coming up in a few weeks. And to be honest, I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but apparently she's already called her head of foundation and said, do something with this woman and with this organization. So, like I said, everything boils down to people. Each one of us as individual people, involved in a cause, and finding those people who are going to get what you're talking about and who you're serving. I don't know, I guess I'll say Kent is my motivation.